Yeah, let's do it.
All right, perfect. We are live with another episode of the Peace, Love, and Meat podcast. Appreciate some of the messages that I got last week after that episode. I think it was a good episode for us to talk about just in real time. But I also think that in reflecting upon that, would you have said anything or maybe stated things any differently? I noticed you had some tones of things in your story this week that made me want to ask you that question.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have said anything different because I think it was important, like you said, that we just did it we were a couple days after the fact still, right?
Right.
But no, I think it was important that we did it when we did it as well. So then, I mean, there's not really anything that I would change versus how we talked about it. But with like what you mentioned on some of my stuff, there was just some things that I think there was stuff that I've been kind of wrestling with for a little while, even prior
Yeah.
to. and then and then that happened, and it just was like a catalyst, I guess, for me to just be like, nope, I'm just moving forward with it, you know what I mean? There was
Yeah.
just a couple things where it was just like, no, that was what I needed, which sounds really weird to say, but I think that was the case with a lot of people in the wake of the last
Mhm.
couple of weeks as well. There was a lot of stuff where people are like, okay, this now is the time to start doing stuff, you know. And
Yeah.
so the post that I think you're talking about was in my story. There was just a thought that I've had for a while where, like even on our show and on my other podcasts and all the other stuff that I've done for several years, like the faith part of my life was never something that I was like hiding or trying not to be known. Like I wasn't
Sure.
ever doing something where I was like, I don't want to talk about that. Or it was just, if it came up, great. That was the type of thing. It just gave me an opportunity. But um, I realized that like with that, there was also a bunch of times where I could have been a little bit more bold with some stuff.
Mhm.
And, how we're taught in scripture, like the lukewarm is the same thing as no faith at all. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
even considered worse,
Worse.
you
Yeah.
know? And so like it has ultimately the same effect, right? Like me
Right.
being lukewarm with it is no different to anybody else than me not saying it at all,
Right.
So it was kind of just that little yeah, man, I don't like to say it's like any kind of silver lining because there's really not a silver lining with it. I mean, it
Right.
was just terrible all the way around. But like what it did was just allowed me to kind of be like, no, okay, like I know what I need to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that was some of the tone of my post yesterday with the tire
Mm-hmm.
deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I think I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, you get to a certain point in life where you've worked and you've done these things, and it's like life doesn't perpetually get harder in some ways. Like you once you have
Yeah.
established yourself, many things tend to get a little bit easier and more efficient. And I think just like anyone else, peace for me became, attaining more of things or having more money in the bank or some of that. And it's like there is
Yep.
a sense of peace in a commerce society. Like when you have a society that lives and breathes on money, you have to consider these things. You have to consider a lot of things that create comfort. But peace for me, I think I kept having this re-envisionment, and I'm like you. I don't think that his death there's anything good about the act, but I think the aftermath. If you do nothing, then that's the worst thing that could happen. So
Yeah.
even if it compels
Exactly.
you in the direction of faith, or it compels you to live a better life because life is so fragile. I mean, it could go at any time. Um, it really made me want to look at everything and just ask myself, like, is peace actually a thing if there is no threat? Like,
Yeah.
if your life is so retracted and you've just lived in this little bubble where nothing else can harm you, nothing else can hurt you. And I'm not saying a wealth standpoint. I'm saying there's people that live this life right now that
Yeah.
work a 9 to 5, and they go home and they watch their TV or they play their video games or whatever it is. But
Yep.
for me, I think it's important to remember that there's always somebody that wants your job, or there's somebody
Yep.
that could replace you. There's someone that could do any. I mean, there's any number of metrics that you can have here. But what I'm saying is, to have that peace, you have to be working more and more and more in a direction so that you can earn that peace. And I think that's when you get it. And it's not, I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the Jockos and the Goggins where it's like you have to be up at 4. I've resisted that a lot because for me, I do pretty well when I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I like
Yep.
to go to bed 11, something like that at night. I get 7 hours of sleep. I feel pretty good. If I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was the type of person that would still go to bed at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I just ended up being tired. So I would say just find a system that is really beneficial for your life and just work at it. Whatever that is, that's the kind of peace I'm talking about. Or, are you training? Because that to me is like the fundamental of capability. If you can lift things up, if you can move things correctly, if you have stabilization and mobility, if you can read and you can learn things so that you're capable and able to have conversations about things at a difficult level, those types of peace are earned. It's not just, and peace is not static. And I mean,
Yeah.
this is all just like coming out of my mouth for like the
Yeah.
first time, but it's like this is the feeling that I was having was you have to do more to earn this peace. Like it's not just going to be here because you got a little money in the bank and you're doing okay. It's like, are you
Yeah.
really at peace or are you just hiding from the chance to gain more peace?
It's kind of funny that I'm going to make this analogy or this reference rather, but there's a line in, I think it's the second Avengers movie where James
Mhm.
Spader is the bad guy, the villain in that one, Ultron, the AI robot or whatever. And he has some
Yeah.
banger one-liners in that movie. And it's just probably because it's James Spader and he's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's obviously coming, and he's in the movie, he's coming at it from like a super evil, destroy the world type of mind. But his line that he uses that I thought of right when you were saying all that was, I think you're confusing peace with quiet.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
like
exactly.
that's pretty much the sentiment, right? Like just
Yeah.
because it doesn't seem like much is going on or you're kind of shielded from stuff, whether intentionally or not, like that doesn't mean things are actually peaceful. It just means
Yeah.
you're, living quietly away, kind of sheltered to a degree with a
Right.
lot of people.
Well, and unlike a lot of people that are trying to, sell you a fear mongering product, that's not what I'm saying. It's like, let's
Yeah.
step back and just look at, okay, if we start with the statement, everything in the world is going bad. Like if we start there, what does that actually mean? And like this helps me kind of debrief myself when my stress level gets up. It's like, what does that actually mean to me? Everything is going bad. Well, you can prove that wrong very quickly by just finding a few things like good
Yeah.
news today. Like just
Yep.
Google good news today, and you can find something.
Yep.
So really, like understanding what I'm saying so that I can feel it correctly, because sometimes I can expand something so much that when I actually think about it critically, it makes no sense to be stressed at all. But that's what I'm saying with these things is like people just need to step back and ask themselves, what if? I mean,
Yep.
and again, not from a fear approach, like what would you do in these situations? How would it impact you? Do you have any thought or preparation for it? Because I think the biggest problem with this country, collectively, we're all pissed off.
Yeah.
Collectively, whether you're on the left, right, middle, wherever, you're at a state of anger right now. And we all can agree that the government is mishandling their job, like the things that they should be doing for the collective. So at some point, we have to stop fighting with each other, realize that the better we are as individuals, the better we can be in a community that's driven not by violence, not by some kind of overtaking thought, but demanding thought or demanding answers after having critical thought and
Yeah.
asking the right questions, tough questions, and not stepping off the gas until we get answers. I mean, that's the only way that I see this going positively forward. I think if we stay separated and keep pointing the finger at everybody else, and dude, I'm talking about a utopia. Like I'm saying, I don't know if
Yeah.
this is even possible,
Right.
but I am saying from my standpoint, from whether that being chopping wood to driving a car, whatever, the better my physical body is, the better I do everything.
Yep.
So training takes a certain priority. Understanding how to do trade, like skill trades, like little things that could matter in certain situations. I just think it's important to take a look at it just from the standpoint of what if this happened? What if the power grid went down for a week or two? We've already seen it go down in Texas for a number of days.
Yep.
And the water. I mean, what are we doing to learn about purifying our own water, collecting rainwater? There's so much information out there without having to go to the level of like psychosis about it. But I think we need to start asking some hard questions because the world is changing around us.
Yep.
You know, and I don't think we're taking it as serious. And I guess to wrap up that point, we're all pissed off about it. But ironically, as we sit here and talk about it on a podcast, what are we actually doing about it?
Yeah.
You know, do we just expect somebody to come in and save us? You know, we've talked about that a little bit before. Like my dad used to say when he was younger, you know, my grandfather would pull over and pick up trash in the neighbor's yard because this is my neighborhood.
Yep.
And now it's like, no, look, that guy, his yard, that's his yard. You know, it's a little bit of that. I think that is missing anymore. We don't think about the bigger picture, just about ourselves.
Well, and I think there's a trap there too, where guys will get kind of sunken into only thinking about the macro and the really big picture. That's like truly the stuff that we directly don't have any influence or control over. And like, that's the stuff that people dwell on the most, which is what just spirals, man, you know? And so like with training, taking care of your own stuff in your own house and your own community, like literally the handful of houses right around you, like, but start within your body first. Right. And even deeper than that first. Right. And then it works its way out. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of things where one of the things I was thinking about, over the last week or so was even just how we approach like our normal work, like literally just like our jobs. Right.
Yeah.
And how many guys, you know, probably are at worst or some guys probably at best neutral on the work that they do day to day, you know, like couldn't care less about going to work and doing all that stuff every day. But like, even just think of the change internally that could happen, but then what comes from that if you honestly just start doing your job like to the absolute best of your own ability. You know, like, I mean, there's so much stuff that can change from within that. And like we're going to have jobs and projects and whatever that just suck. But if you're thinking about like doing my job every single day, I'm going to absolutely give it. I'm sending it, like, go hard. You know, that doesn't mean like just kill yourself physically, literally every single day. But it's like, did I leave anything on the table today? Like, what was the purpose of that? Was it just because I was feeling lazy? I just didn't want to do something, you know? And complain about the stuff I have to do every single day. Like that is a circular feeding thing internally as well. And I think when you do that, and it's like, dude, I'm not even taking care of the stuff that I have the actual control over. I'm just worrying about all this other stuff that's happening, you know, on the East Coast in DC or in some country I can't find on a map on the other side of the planet. Like, what good is that doing anybody that I actually have contact with?
Right. Well, you know, I was talking to Logan about this today, and it was about if you were to just get up in the morning and you never touched your phone, you know, let's say for a number of hours, what would your morning look like? You would wake up, you would either go meet your wife in the kitchen because she's already up, or you would turn over and see her there. You would see your kids, you would see your dog, you would go have a cup of coffee. You might sit there and, because you're not turning on the news and you're not looking at your phone, so you might sit there, watch the sunrise, do something around the house. But like throughout all of that, let's say you take your kids to school and somebody cuts you off. That's like the only thing that can compel you to be upset that morning, right? It's like somebody cutting you off in traffic. But if you pick this up, this phone, and you go in and you start looking, dude, it is just an inundation of bad news, or people who are in a similar situation to you that are doing 10x of what you want to be doing. You know, it's the highlight reel versus like the doom and gloom. But that's something I mean, I can recognize that for myself in music. Like, I put on a good sad album, but 40 minutes in, I'm sobbing. You know what I mean? You put on some heavy metal, 40 minutes into that, and I'm ready to smash windows. It's like, I am influential by what I receive in. So why would I think that I'm any different about news? You know what I mean? Because dude, I can just read one thing after another. And what it does is as you show an interest in something or even a consideration of care enough to read an article, which people don't tend to do very much anymore.
Yeah.
They feed you more of that same line. And then they'll throw something in there that's counter to it to piss you off and be like, look what the other side's doing. Look how they can't see this.
Yep.
You know, it's infuriating. And that's something I'm really trying to do better on. Is I used to have a couple news sources that I would trust. And dude, even that, I am somewhat trying to be on like a 2 to 3 day news cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, the shit that you and Drew and I talk about in that group is probably the most level of current events
Right.
that I see, like outside of just all the politics stuff. But I mean, it's a crazy world right now, man. I don't think that we have enough cognitive ability to decipher it. So you have to pick and choose. And like you said, and to quote Terrence, you know, is your house in order?
Yeah.
If it's not, I mean, actuality, like think about the practicality of worrying about everyone else's problems in and up to someone halfway around the world that knows nothing of you and speaks no language similar to ours. If that's our concern, outside of taking care of the very things that we can control, that's a problem. But dude, I'm just as guilty of it as anyone. We all are, I think, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I was thinking about this too. Like, obviously, this thing was maybe part of the reason we got to the place that we were or are to some degree. But I think about when even, I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. Like when I was in middle school and high school and stuff, and like the way you absorb news was like my dad had the paper on the kitchen counter in the morning,
Right.
is like just checking stuff from what happened from the night before, or maybe the day before that he missed or something like that. And then it was like, you know, throw on something in the evening for 30 minutes, whatever local news broadcast was just showing stuff, or whatever national show was showing stuff for, you know, 30 minutes. And then that was it. Like everything else during the day was doing what he needed to do and doing what everybody needed to do during the day and focusing on that, you know, and like that probably led to a lot of problems, obviously, because it's a lot easier to hide stuff. It's a lot easier to conceal and, you know, mislead and do all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, there are benefits to having the ability to, you know, fact check things in real time or give like actual different angles of things that happened contrary to what like a news outlet is showing purposefully. You know, like there's benefits. There's totally benefits to that. Like we've seen that happen in like, I can't even tell you how many things. Like think just everything with COVID from 5 years ago. Like if that happened 20 years ago, I mean, totally different type of outcome, in my opinion. You know,
well,
but
I mean,
it's just crazy to think about. Like,
I was just going to say, I mean, how in the world, and you may disagree with this statement, but it's something that I will say, I think they can be one of the sources that is trusted, but it's the real news, no bullshit. Like how did a handful of 20 somethings see so clearly that American people and maybe people around the world were just sick and tired of it? And it's like, here's what was said. Here's some shit that you should know. And here's kind of like where we go from here, or we don't know where we go from here. I mean, it's just simple, generalized reporting without any inference whatsoever.
And they took off during like the beginning parts of the Ukraine stuff. Was like,
well, COVID was like a big leap for them, and then when they went to Ukraine and was hammering that stuff, that's when they just skyrocketed. Like,
that's when they blew up.
Yeah,
because they had. I mean, they sent dudes over there, and again, these guys were like 23, 24 years old, or whatever. Like they're young 20 guys when they were, you know, a few years ago when they got things rolling, which is pretty crazy to think about. But it was just like, no, we're just going to send our own dudes. Like we can't trust the 6 news broadcasts to actually show a lot of this stuff. Like we'll just send our own guys and take the video ourselves, you know?
Yeah. What do you think happens like in the next coming weeks? Like I noticed that, I'll be honest with you, and I sure hope this isn't a soundbite, but like I was looking at the Turning Point, the continuation of the college tour. And I'm just looking through it, and then I see Tucker's name at the end of it. Like, man, I got a weird feeling about that. You know, just because to me, I mean, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot about Charlie Kirk before his death, other than the reels that I saw. I didn't know very much about Tucker Carlson, more so just because I think when somebody has kind of a meteoric rise as a talking person, and again, irony of being on a podcast, but like I'm still waiting for the meteoric rise. But
Yeah,
like,
whenever that
you know,
rise comes, that'd be nice to
but
know.
it feels like to me in that current climate that if somebody was like constantly in the news, they were looking for those zingers. And I
Yeah.
just kind of shied away from those type of people. They're just looking for that viral one clip. And of course, he shared on that. But Liz was big into him and had shared some of the stuff. So I started listening a little bit more. And what's funny now is like he has become one of those figures that is kind of bull by the horns with, national media. And I didn't realize maybe the threat that Charlie Kirk was, but I do and can understand the threat that Tucker Carlson has.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about like how do you protect a guy now who I think has the same convictions that he understands the risk, obviously,
Yeah.
that he's going to be standing at a podium and he is probably someone that would be marked for danger, What do you feel about that? Do you think that we're at a point that people are seeing we can't continue this path, or do you think it's just emboldened someone?
I think it's well, it's emboldened on both sides, and it's going to totally be emboldened on both sides. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like the thing with the college tours and them continuing, like I'm for one glad that they're continuing it. And the way that they did it was these were already all people that were scheduled to appear with Charlie when he went to all these places anyways. So it wasn't like we're doing a whole new thing and it's it's just gonna be like they were already all on the schedule for the rest of throughout the end of
Okay.
the year.
I didn't
And
know
so it's just, yeah. And so like I think Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire did the first one like last night or 2 nights ago
that.
at
Yeah.
University of Minnesota, I think, or something like that. And because he was already scheduled to be there, right? And I think there's a handful of others that were like in that same boat. But dude, it's crazy because, and this is like a little offshoot of that, but there's it like I said, it's totally going to embolden both sides, and that's going to be where we see, on one side it's going to be escalation on the violent side,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is, like, it seems like a really small thing that happened yesterday, but I was reading a lot of people, and I think it was Eric Prince, who's a dude gangster, by the way. Like, I would just be fine if Eric Prince ran everything for a long time. Like, dude, he's at least like put him in charge of freaking Secret Service. I've said that for years. But
Yeah.
the whole deal, did you see the whole deal with the president at the UN yesterday?
The meltdown?
Well, he was at the UN yesterday giving a speech or whatever, but like there was a moment where him and Melania were going to step on an escalator, and the second that the two of them stepped on it, it shut off. And he was like, and they tried to play it off like it was, they were just kind of playing this little prank on him, like some kids just, or some staffers or whatever, just trying to play a prank on the president, which like dumb regardless. But then when you actually, I was reading a lot of guys that are like security guys or whatever, they're like, dude, that is nightmare scenario. You got him on an escalator, nobody in front of him, just guys behind him. Like that's like, as soon as that thing stops, you need every single dude around him's weapons drawn. Right. And like everybody was just sitting around, like looking around, trying to figure out what was going on. Like no threat assessment of the situation in that moment. And it seems like a really, small thing that probably most people didn't even draw that conclusion. But then you see like the security guys that I was reading talking about it, and they're like, no, dude, that can't happen. And like, there's things like that where it's like, dude, I don't want to go down like that. Everybody's trying to pull something all the time, but there's twice now where they've shot at him.
Right.
They killed Charlie a couple weeks ago. Like that kind of stuff, somebody was reading talking about political assassinations in the last couple of weeks, said, like you don't see them a ton, but they're effective for a large swath of people, right? Like you take somebody out, it does demoralize, it does, but also if they see that it works, it emboldens more attempts. You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of the other side where it's like, no, we got to step up and like just step up to them in their faces now and not allow any of this kind of stuff to happen. Because if we let them see that it worked, right, it's just gonna be like, oh, well, here's our out for any dude that we don't like. I mean, and that's just horrible for everybody.
That's
in the
called the
long term.
Middle East.
That's literally exactly right, dude. I mean, they
Well,
depose people and just, I mean, it's wild.
yeah, I mean, listen, this is something that's probably going to be a little bit more political than I expected to go, but man, I had a real hard time with seeing the stuff in Dearborn, Michigan, where
Ugh.
they're playing the prayers, the Islam prayers over the loudspeakers. Now, let me back up and preface this. I grew up in a place where I worked with a lot of migrant workers in a farm setting. And what I saw and experienced with them, and if you think back or if you listen back to some of our podcasts, you'll hear this sentiment again. These were people that came here very, very proud of where they came from, very, very proud to share aspects of where they came from. But buddy, on the 4th of July, they were the biggest American flags on their shirts.
Yep.
They were putting them in their yard, and that was not a front. These were people who understood who they were in a
Yep.
place where they were not from, but they were welcome to.
Yep.
And that's to me what immigration should look like. Come here, bring everything that's the best of you, and share that with us, and take parts of what we have to offer too. But this is our culture, and you don't
Yes.
have to assimilate so far that it's like you're changing your religion. You don't have to change so far that you're only eating our food, but at the same time, recognize you're in a place that is welcoming you. It'd be like somebody, and this is how I try to structure things out when I don't understand what's happening at a society level. I put it on a household,
Yeah.
right? You come into my house and you tell me, one, you can't eat what I fixed you because of religious reasons. Fine, I can hear that. You tell me you got an allergy to something I just fixed. I'm not going to make you eat it either. Fair. But you say, hey, wait a minute, you have an American flag. I need to put this flag over it, or I need to do this, or you can't say that prayer, or whatever it is. That's a real problem at my house level. So how is that not a problem at the national level, right? And it's just shocking to me because in a time and place where we are taking so many steps back as an identity as a nation. Like, what is our identity now? This is something I've asked you before too, because it troubles me. I don't know what it is. I can tell you certain things about Australia. I can tell you cultures in South America, Africa, Canada. I can tell you those things. And there's definitely a list of things I can say that are American, but I don't know that my list would parallel with a majority of Americans the way that other Canadians might pair with their own.
Yeah.
Swedish might pair with their own. I think there are recognizable cultural things that we have lost in this country, you know? And
Yeah.
it bothers me. It really bothers me that we are kowtowing to this situation where because someone is different, I have to be quiet, right? I
Yep.
have no problem. Like I literally have sat in houses of Muslims in their home country. I have sat in every single kind of person's home from race, creed, sex, whatever, at some point in my life and shared a meal, shared a conversation. It's not about that. It's about the respect. And it's kind of like, I'm going to offer you the respect. You've got to give me a little bit back. And I don't feel like the average American across the board is getting that same respect, you know?
Well, and the dude, the mayor, I think he's the mayor of Dearborn. Like had
Yeah,
the
I saw that.
dude, like telling a guy named Ted that he's not welcome in his town because he didn't
Yeah,
want streets renamed to, a dude who was a literal like Hamas sympathizer.
right.
Or, like they were trying to rename streets in Dearborn to and the guy's like, no, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think we should be doing that. And then the mayor tells him, like, you're not welcome in your own town.
Yeah,
Like, no, dude, this is my town. Like
right.
that you have it completely backwards.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem too, is I think there's so much of this attention politics too. I mean, listen, he says the right thing, we're talking about it. You know what I mean? And I say the right thing as in
Mhm.
attention grabbing.
Mhm.
And that dude in his own community might backtrack from that statement the rest of the campaign, but at least everyone's talking about his name and it's getting his name out there. And I think, they say no publicity is bad publicity, but I don't know, man. I don't know how some of the things that are happening in this country are happening. I don't know how we're looking at other places in the world that have struggled with immigration and the aftermath of those immigrations and the fervor of those immigrations. And I'm just to be very plain, I'm talking about the Muslim immigrations
Mhm.
of the military age men. That's the most
Mhm.
concerning part to me because
Mhm.
again, when I was in Britain in the early 2000s up until the mid 2015-16 timeframe, it was just like a lot of places. Like they had amazing restaurants, they ran some of the hotels, seemed to be an integrated force. And now I am not been there. I am looking at the news that, by and large, a national media news of the UK doesn't like to distribute, but their streets have been overrun with
Yep.
protests and fighting, and we're seeing that here. My question is, how do you welcome a group of people on one front that you understand aren't those people within the same group, and then you have this other fervent group of people that have come here to change things? Like how does a person deal with that? Because that's something I'm struggling with. I don't judge all people as bad, just by whatever, but it's like I'm seeing problems within that community, in my community.
Yeah.
you know
Well, dude, it's frustrating because for a lot of reasons, but the idea that like and it's where it's what everything you just said sentiment wise, but like the idea that we're supposed to believe there's no difference in cultures
right,
is the biggest lie of all. You know what I mean?
right,
Like it's fine and it's good that cultures
yeah,
are sometimes uninhabitable with each other. Like
right,
not everybody has to be in one thing trying to make everybody's stuff the same. Like
right,
cultures are distinct for a reason, you know, and
hmm,
it's fine. Like we have areas of the world where those cultures thrive. Like
right,
use it, use it there. You know what I mean? But so
yeah,
when you see like the very deliberate, like with the UK, for example, dude, like all that stuff over there is just wild. And so, I mean, like it's intentional, just like it was
right,
here for the previous however many years that we let all the military age dudes from millions, millions of them from who knows where, because we weren't
right,
nothing, everybody was getting in, right? We have no
right,
idea who's here and who's not. Like we
right,
still, even though like stuff is basically shut down and it's like 4 straight months now that 0 people have been released into the States, like, obviously playing hard defense is great, but
yeah,
now we don't have a clue who's here, like,
right,
that's already been within and where they are, what they're I mean, like, that's the kinda stuff where there's whole sections of people that, like, the goal is to come in and take from
right.
people and take over things.
Well, you know, I was in Finland right around the time that the immigration stuff passed there. And dude, I think there's a lot of people that might listen to this and hear this and think, "Oh my God, what's he saying?" Just do a little bit of research on Finland, Germany, UK, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. Look at those countries and what happened. Um, I'm a darker skinned guy as it is, especially in Finland, and there was very, very clear apprehension. Like, hey, who is this guy? What are you doing here? Okay, you can come on in. But it was a very different feeling because in the particular town I was in, or one of them, there had not been a murder in this town since the 70s.
Yep.
Like, people do not lock their doors. People have no bug nets on their windows, and they have the windows up. I mean, a very, very safe place. And it was within 6 months after that there had been 15 murders. Rape was up, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of percentage. Um, and there was, I mean, like those people were fighting for it in the street then. Like, hey, you can't come in my bar. Wait a minute. Okay, he's not that. But dude, people were already scared, and it's just degraded and degraded and degraded. And it was much the same thing. They were penalized for asking questions. Like,
Yep.
why can't I raise my American flag or say my prayers? But these people from another place can come here and do the same. It's not about more or less. It's about what are we allowing that we are taking from another side,
Mhm.
and the side that we're taking from is the people who have long stood here. That's
Yeah.
my problem with all of it. Like, you're not going to take our gun. You're not going to tell me that I can't raise my flag, and you're not going to tell me that I can't be exactly who I am in the face of someone else if they can be exactly who they are in my face. That's what it all boils down to for me. Like, live and let live. but don't tell me I have to change everything that I was taught coming up in this place to accommodate someone else. Maybe they have to come here and change a little bit of themselves to accommodate being here. That's just how I look at it. I would never come to your house and say, "Hey, dude, you got to move this shit around." Just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Or try doing that in any other country.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
doing it here. And that's the fucking thing that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Is listen, I agree that you can be a human rights activist and see that there is a struggle for the Palestinian people. I think you can be a human rights activist and see that there's a struggle for the Israeli people. I think you can be a realist and admit that it's not the people really of either one of those places. It's the government on both sides that's creating these things. But these people here in our country that are so invested in the Ukraine or the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that wouldn't lift a finger to do a damn thing here.
Yep.
Right? And that some of those people are rooting for a side in Palestine that are you're at a LGBTQ event and you're fighting for Palestine. Would those people fight for you? Is what I ask. Now, that's a conflict that they need to resolve within themselves, but many of them aren't even aware that those things
throw
are
them off
happening.
a roof, dude.
There are people on the other side of the fence, on the far right side, that think everything our government does is the best thing in the world because they're uninformed. Dude, there's so much misinformation and so much tunnel vision within this country right now. That's the biggest problem, is we don't know how to talk to each other. We've lost sense of what it is to be together about anything. And now people can subvert that. Like, that's what's actually happened, is that people that are coming here have to rely on each other and depend on each other because it's harder for them. And what they do is they organize and they build structure and they get a voice, and then they do these things because we have gotten lazy and not protected the things that are ours to protect. That's my 50-cent piece on it.
I think that's, I mean, with saying how both sides are emboldened now, but I think that's the thing that I'm seeing the most is like people are seeing how Charlie handled himself in all these things and what he was actually doing, right? And they're like, okay, if he could do it and stand up for the stuff and like be respectful and invite conversation and like, but then very directly like make his points and challenge other people's thoughts to their face and do it respectfully and kindly, you know, like if Charlie can do that, I've got no excuse anymore.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying too. I'm not saying be awful to people. I'm not saying, I'm not even saying, you know, give people a place to worship, but don't force me to worship the same when the principalities of what I believe in are offensive. You know what I mean? Whatever that gamut is. And dude, I have very, very conservative beliefs in some realm. I have very, very liberal beliefs in some realm. And I guarantee you I have some extreme beliefs that no one would side with me on. You know what I mean? I think that's just the reality of who I am. But the fact of the matter is, I can coexist in just about any room that I walk into. You know, I like to find the commonality to defy my own prejudgment. Like that's a cool thing to me. When I think you're something and then you're entirely something different, because guess what? A lot of people misread me. So I enjoy the chance to change their opinion. You know, whether it's the old lady at Walmart that can't reach the oatmeal and I get that for her and she's like, well, you're such a nice guy. You know, so from that to a boardroom where I'm sitting there with a bunch of executives in suits and I'm sitting there in a flannel with my tattoos out, but I offer something of value. That's the number one thing. Give value to where you're coming, give respect to where you're coming, and I bet you get a lot of both back. That, I mean, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, it was the example of when, well, it was just earlier this summer, I think, when Charlie went on Bill Maher's show. And there was that clip where Bill asked him if he wanted to drink a bourbon or whatever he's doing. And Charlie's like, no, thank you. I don't drink. And he goes, and you don't smoke? And he goes, no. And he goes, and you're super Christian? He goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, we're going to get along great. And he was kind of saying it sarcastically, right? Like Bill Maher coming from him. Charlie's like, no, dude, this is going to be perfect. This is awesome. Like, I'm super excited about this. And they had like a really awesome conversation that obviously they didn't agree on pretty much anything, but like they could sit there and talk. And I think that is like when people see that, that was like the biggest influence I think he probably had moving forward, you know, is that is the example that he was in that in that regard. And so like when we talk about who's emboldened to do what, like that's the good emboldened that I'm seeing explode in the last
Right.
couple of weeks, where people are like, no, this is not how it goes here. And we're not just gonna like you'd said, we're not just gonna like sit and let you do whatever you want because you told us we have to allow you to do this thing. Because,
Right.
you know, like, no, we can stand up and speak for ourselves and tell you exactly what we think, why we think it, challenge you. And then those people that usually get that challenge, as you see from all of the videos of Charlie on college campuses, like, lose their mind, or they don't actually have a coherent thought behind it. It's just something that they've been told to repeat.
Yeah.
Right. And they never had somebody tell them to their face, like, take it one step further into your thought process. Like, does this make any logical sense to you? Right.
Yeah.
And work through it that way. Like, that's the kind of stuff that like is hopefully going to just explode from this, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I just think it's a time where people should really be aware of what's really going on and not just the sensationalized version. Like, sit down with people that you care about and have conversations. Like, that's a good start. You know, where are you guys at on this? What do you think about this stuff? How do you feel about these things? What would you do if? And I just I don't know. Like, we drink so much information through a fire hose. I don't know that a lot of people are even capable of it, you know, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, little Johnny has soccer at 5:30 and I get off at 5:15 and I got to get him there and I got to get his clothes. And then Susie has gymnastics at 7 p.m. And it's like, where do we draw the line that, hey, we're not going to keep playing this fiddle, you know, like, we
Mhm.
recognize that there's something bigger that needs to be done than just keep going. I mean, by
Yeah.
and large, dude, I don't talk, and I'm not saying, I'm not parking a bus on anyone when I say this, but I mean, almost universally, the guys that I talk to are struggling with what's going on
Mhm.
with their own personal, like, a lot of guys are having retractions in their jobs, or they're not as busy as they were, or they're just 100,000 things going on. But when I talk to them, you, me, everyone that I talk to, we keep going, you know, like, because you have to. The water stops if you don't. So
Yep.
how do you do something with that? And I guess that's a good question for anybody that's having any of these thoughts too. Is like, again, do you just literally start with yourself, or, you know, like, what do you do? I don't know, because I don't know. I don't have an answer. That's what amazes me about these cocksuckers that can tell me how to live my life perfectly online for $3,000 a month. Like, I don't get it, dude. You know,
Right.
I don't
Well, I
understand.
well, I mean, one of the things, I mean, obviously, like, we've talked about a lot about taking care of it internally, body, home. I mean, like, you have to do it in that order,
Right,
right? You have to start internal, and then you do
right,
like internal of yourself, then external of yourself, then home, then go out from there. And then people uh want to say, like, well, what do I do? What do I do? Like, I need steps. I need steps. I mean, like, you can't just like blanket statement every single person with, like, here's your action plan. You
right.
know what I mean? But, like, how do I change things? How do I get involved or whatever? But it's like a lot of times people will ask those questions, and it's like, have you ever been to a freaking city council meeting in your town?
Right,
You know,
right.
like, I mean, it's stuff like that. Because I guarantee most people don't, because you see the videos from local city council meetings, there's like 4 people there pretty much every
Right.
single time, you know, and they only need, like, they're not getting any pushback when they want to pass stuff. They vote on it. Nobody's there to give them any kind of feedback to their faces, whatever. They just kind of do what they want. And we're just trusting that because you elected them to that position, they're going to still do what you expect them to do. Right. Without any sort of challenge or talking to their faces about what they do. But I mean, like,
Right.
it's that kind of stuff. It's school board stuff. It's, things at your work. Like, if that's one of the things I've actually gotten a couple of messages about was, how people feel. A couple of guys now, they're like, there's been things that have happened at my job where I didn't want to rock the boat because I didn't want to cause problems. Right. But that thought, it's like, it's not causing problems if you're speaking up and telling the truth on something, you
Right.
know, like, you're just nervous of confrontation, and we would just rather be comfortable than
Yeah.
cause any kind of disturbance anywhere, and that's like the whole peace with quiet thing that I said earlier, right? But like now it's like, no, if something happens at my office or my job with coworkers and they say something that's like, no, dude, that's not a like, no, you don't get to say that to me, or like that's not true.
Right.
That's the type of stuff. Like, be emboldened to have the actual conversation and stand up for yourself or
Well, do
whatever
you
it
think
is in the conversation.
I've seen a lot of people, and I guess this is a fair point, but it's almost like there are people who I would claim to be, to have a patriotic background. They're very devoted to the country. They're very proud of the flag, and they support good causes, but they may not be a Trump person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And any sense of patriotism almost classified you as quote unquote a Trump tard or
Mm-hmm.
a racist or a homophobe or whatever. And I think I'm refreshingly seeing people start to voice pride in America
Mm-hmm.
again, much more convincingly and loudly.
Yep.
Because to me, that's the only thing that's going to get us through it all, is to recognize, yeah, borders are pretty stupid anymore, honestly. Like, to have wars over an imaginary line, that's pretty fucking dumb. But at the same time, we're fighting, a theory. We're fighting an ideology a lot of times, whether that's a difference in government or a difference in faith. You have to have some lines drawn somewhere. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the more people that are emboldened to say this country is worth something, this country is a beautiful place with amazing people, that shines on the kids, and that gives the kids something to believe in and hope for. Because right now, I just don't see a lot of that traditional patriotism being handed down. In certain families,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but by and large, you just don't see it as widely spread as you used to. This is another point, but this is something that's really bothered me a lot, is, and it's probably fueled by some of the videos that I've seen recently, but just talking about, the mega wealthy, or the
Mm-hmm.
people that are, perceivably at the head of these corporations and somewhat behind the scenes in the banking world, the big money world, the pullers of the strings, right?
Yep.
I don't necessarily agree that there's a big Mr. Evil that has this malicious plan. I think it's possible. I think it's possible, but I don't necessarily think that it even has to be a malicious intent to have a devastating effect, in the sense that they can move faster than the government can, right? They can make decisions on demand. They're a pro-profit situation, so they can spend a lot of money, and the government has to go through a lot of things. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of privatization of a lot of things for the American people. But that, again, you become subservient to what you pay for,
Yeah.
And if we're paying for these things that were once provided to us, maybe they're better, maybe they're not, but that still gives them more importance than a government structure. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If all of our world revolves around an Amazon and an Apple and a Google and all of their subsidiaries combined, what
Mm-hmm.
does the government actually serve at that point, if all of our services and needs are met by the capitalist? So that's a concern for me, whether it's, funneling funds into politics and corrupting the government, or just superseding the government entirely before we can even realize that it's happening. I think
Yeah.
we are in the throes of that state right now. The government cannot keep up with what private companies with big cash flow can do, or private individuals.
Yeah. It's and there's a lot of them. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of funnels and streams that, yeah, that was the whole thing with the Doge stuff from earlier in the year, where it was like we were starting to people finally got a glimpse of, even within just a couple of departments that those young guys went in and just shredded with
Yeah.
stuff. Like, that was a very small, like, USAID deal was really the only one that had any passing effect, because they didn't really even do anything after that, which was a bummer, right?
Yeah.
But that was like, I don't know, less than 1% or something like that of
Yeah.
what our whole budget is. And you're like, dude, this is just rife with
Yeah.
fraud and
Oh, yeah.
and nefariousness. It's like, can you even imagine what like Medicare or that kind of stuff is, where it's like hundreds of billions of dollars of stuff? Like, dude, there's no way that's not
Yeah.
the exact same on a 100 times, 1,000 times scale.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, you have to look really no further than some of the stock trading stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
like but that's the thing, man. It's like 2% tax on tea, and we had a tea party. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at what point? I mean, seriously, man. At what point now do you think a collective of people have a consciousness to say this stops? Like, I really don't know if there is a line. Like, they kill Trump tomorrow. Does that create some kind of awakening? They insert someone else that's terrible. Does that make some kind of awakening? Like, at what point does it become so bad that we say enough is enough? Because other countries seem to have stood up before we have.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where our line is.
I'm
like,
not sure
what would
either.
it be for you? Like, what would it be for you? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's like
I'm
a
not
single
talking violence.
event.
I'm just talking like,
Yeah, I don't
put the shit
because if
down and let's figure it out.
dude, because like nonviolent lines, I would have drawn like 5 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm way past the line on a lot of things. Like I'm years past the line on a lot of things, right? But it just is like I know that there's probably millions of people that feel that way, but there's no organization around it.
Right.
And I don't mean organization like an entity. I just mean like literal organizing of what to do. You know, like that's been the issue. Is like, but a million single individuals can be upset, but like, what are you guys gonna do? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's pretty much the sentiment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how do you think it play? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on government wise that I'm head scratching over. Like, do you think that it's a game of cat and mouse? Like, let's see how much we can move the needle and see how much is pushed back, or do you think there's an overarching plan that's in place that is going to ultimately be good? We're just in the throes of the bad. Because that was the presentation, even in Argentina. His president said, look, things are going to get really bad and really strange before they get better. I can't speak for that, but from the things I've read, it looks like things have started to gain and turn around a little bit down there.
Yeah.
Do you think we're in the middle of something like that, where it's like we had to stop a runaway train, get a different train going forward, and we're just kind of in the crux of that point?
Most likely, because you look at what's his name and what's the other one, the other El Salvador.
Yeah, Bolsonaro.
Yeah,
or is that Brazil? No, Bolsonaro's Brazil, I think, right?
Yeah, Belecky or whatever his name is in El Salvador, that like day one locked up like 90,000 gang members or something like that. You know,
Bukele.
Bukele. Yeah, I was close. But yeah, they have. I think there is probably. I'm not one of those like trust the plan guys. That there's a lot of those, but I also don't think there's no plan. Like they're not in there just flying by the seat of their pants. I think a couple of the things recently that have the potential to make like really big differences for like everyday American lives and improve. Like I think there's stuff like that has happened. Like I shared with you like the whole deal with the H-1Bs and like the abuse of the visa systems and stuff like that are pulling jobs from citizens, and then like the Antifa thing from this week too. Like that only works if you actually do it, like that, and that's the issue is like, especially on the right, like, dude, freaking the right loves to just put out like referendums and memos on stuff and make it sound good and then never do anything about it. But like, if you want to stop like all these violence, like literal violent protests, burning of court buildings and all that kind of stuff. Like up here in the Northwest, Antifa basically just like owned a whole city block of stuff in Seattle.
Yeah.
And like, like all that kind of stuff. Like, dude, that's the kind of stuff where the government actually is supposed to like go in, take care of it, make an example so it doesn't happen again. Like, and so like labeling them as a domestic terror organization, great. Now do something, like, and so that's the whole game that everybody on the right's played for freaking 30 years. It's like, you talk a good talk, but what do you like? Here we are, because you didn't take action on any of it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for something glaringly good to come about. I mean, I know there's been a lot of things, but dude, even my disgust with like Kash Patel, like his behavior under questioning is so embarrassing to that whole process of what's actually going on.
He's like
And
trying
then
to
Massey,
he's like trying to Twitter meme himself. Like that's
yeah, and it's like, dude, you're the highest answering person in that department. Like, and the guy's asking you for a yes or no question, and you're like ABC 1 2 3. You know, like you're just mocking this person, dude. I mean, a lot of people want some Epstein information, and they want it now. And guys like Massey are perpetuating and keeping it at the forefront. And like even when they propose it, it's shot down. You know, it's like it doesn't even go to a motion for a vote. It's just shot down before the vote can even happen.
yeah.
And then, you know, in the wake of the Kirk thing, they decide to suppress it. It's like, how fucked is that? You know, that you're even doing this in the hours right after. Like, can you not just pause for a minute? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's
I'm just disappointed with that. I'm disappointed with Bondi. I'm disappointed with Trump on some regards. I'm disappointed with just all of it. Like, I don't get some of the stuff that's happening right now.
yeah.
In the same light that when Biden was in there and whatever, I was like, I don't understand this. Like,
And you
it
literally
seems
couldn't
like-
understand him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like it's two wings of the same bird. You know, it's
Yeah.
like neither one of them are doing the appropriate job that I think they could be doing.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem too. Where does that leave you? Who do you vote for? You know, when you're force fed two turds in the punch bowl, like what do you do?
And that's every time, dude.
Mm-hmm. I'm just excited for AOC versus whoever. You know.
It'd be brutal to watch all that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we're going to have to get away from the 80-year-olds. I think the world's just moving too fast for that age bracket now. It's like
Totally.
we're seeing leaps and bounds of discovery and technology and advancement in information. I mean, I think a 50-year-old sounds like a good candidate for that job. Somebody who's like proven themselves at a high level, fresh ideas, capable, healthy. You know, I mean, why is that such an impossibility?
Dude, and I mean, we've talked about him a bunch, but that's not a small part of the reason why I really like JD a lot. You know, like there's a lot of good stuff there. And I mean, not the least of which is the fact that he's 40 years younger than everybody. you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. He's been a little quiet for me from what I hoped as a vice president. Just because I think he's a capable speaker. I still need to know more about him and kind of learn who he is a little bit more in office. There's some oddities about his past, and there's some things that, you know, can raise some eyebrows, I guess. But overall, you know, I did appreciate in the interviews that I saw, he was able to have very difficult topic discussions at a very common level, like very digestible conversation. And I think that's what good leaders can do, is they take difficult ideas and they break them down so they're easy to understand and easy to apply. That's something I think we need more from in the government, is this is our plan and this is what we're going to do. So we're not just sitting here. And granted, with the way the world is, I hear people say, well, you don't want to tell the world your tactics. It seems to me that there's hackers that know everything that we're going to do left and right, you know, and it doesn't seem impossible to just share information with your people of like, this is what we're trying to do, and just give us an update report. Like, don't wait for the State of the Union. Like, it should be, this is the week in review from the White House.
Bring back the fireside chats, man. Just give JD a podcast once a week. You know,
dude, I really thought that would be, what a way to take advantage of the here and now, though. Like, to actually have and maybe even have some world leaders on there, you know, to talk about difficult things at a listener level. I mean, and have a conversation, not the pomp and circumstance of it. Like, just have a real conversation about the ins and outs of topics. I think it would be a great thing for them. I don't know if it's JD Vance. I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But I think someone that could literally do that in a professional way and not an Alex Jones way, or, you know, whatever, which consume what you'll consume. But I'm saying it's someone that was actually there with a role to disseminate that information for good, not for propaganda, not for persuasion, but just like, this is what this program would benefit. This is what it's going to cost. You know, I feel like we have so much transparency now because people find everything, but at the same time, it's still like they're trying to play behind the door a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
100%. Let's wrap it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there. I guess that was more questions than answers as usual, but
as usual, though, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll check back in with you soon.
All right. Thanks very much, guys.